Hello, hi. My name is Reem Shilleh, and I had been kindly invited to talk about or to introduce the work of Heiny Srour, um, and to talk about her two films, Layla and the Wolves and The Hour of Liberation. Maybe it would be interesting to begin by looking at Heiny as she considers herself to be a feminist, a political filmmaker, and to be, before anything else, actually, yes, a feminist, before even being a filmmaker. This defines her work. It had defined both of her works, and it also had defined, but was also shaped by the conditions in which she developed her film practices, and the conditions in which she actually was born into and grew up in. In her film work and in her writing, and whenever she speaks, she always speaks about working from within and against patriarchy, and constantly having to fight to find a place for herself to speak out as a woman filmmaker. And so both of her films also reflect this. For example, The Hour of Liberation, the reason she chose to travel for 800 kilometers in the very arid and difficult conditions and terrain of the Dhofar region in Oman, in the Sultanate of Oman. And the reason she chose to do so and to bring her crew with her is because she felt that the liberation movement of Dhofar was actually practicing the liberation of women as well through its revolutionary work. And so women were an integral and actual part of the armed struggle, and not just they were not just tokenized for the sake of representing the struggle as progressive, which she found to be the case with many of other national liberation struggles and anti-colonial struggles. And so she found that the women were considered as active and equal participants of the revolution, and this fascinated her. And so she decided to travel to the Dhofar region and make her film there. Throughout the film, in some of the conversations that she's had, she also afterwards and about the film, she also felt that even the film was not feminist enough. She felt that that some of the parts were even compromised. Being asked what she meant, she basically explained that she felt that the shots were too wide, and so the women were not as clearly recognized as they should have. She had wished for perhaps more tighter shots, closer shots. And so to kind of ensure that the presence of women is as obvious as can be in the film. Another interesting thing about the film, and this is something that she spoke about, is the fact that she decided to use recorded sound, and so not to speak over the people of Dhofar, but to rather have them speak and deliver their own statements and their own stories. and this was necessary for her because she found that like also very often the films that were made about liberation struggles were used recorded voiceover, and the choice of not using sing sound was to impose discourse and narratives and voices of the other over those that actually appear in the image. And so maybe to look at, you know, the other film like Layla and the Wolves, which she made a little later in 1984, which also was a film that took her a long time and many efforts to make, until she was able to secure enough production budgets to proceed with the film. In the film, she this is a different work. This is a scripted work. She looks at the kind of a chronology of the work and the participation of women in the resistance against the different colonial projects in Palestine and Lebanon. The film also relies on the folklore and folk tales and mythology, and kind of is built, interlaces between, yes, that imaginary world and then the world of actual of historical moments and events. I just wanted to read actually a small part from her conversation with John Akomfra in 1983, from an article titled "Before the Wolves," in which Akomfra goes and says, for Layla, Heiny Srour relies on traditions of style and observation more common in Middle Eastern art and Arabian epics. Layla weaves a rich tableau of history, folklore, myth, and archive material. Those of us from the third world have to, this is a quote from Heiny, those of us from the third world have to reject the ideas of film narration based on the 19th century bourgeois novels with its commitment to harmony. Our societies have been too lacerated and fractured by colonial power to fit into these neat scenarios. We have enormous gaps in our societies, and film has to recognize this. End of quote of Heiny in both the excerpt from the article. So I think this kind of reflects, speaks very clearly on how Heiny was making her work, that she was the challenging and going against of imposed narratives, imposed structures, imposed modes of production as well. And this very much defined her practice as a filmmaker. And simply because she was challenging the different structures of patriarchy, of also like Western, the Western outlook and definition of what filmic narratives are and how they are to be structured, and how the other actually is also seen constantly in through the eyes of the Western cultures. Today, Heiny Srour continues to be present through the films, but also with the films, and she is also hard at work with. She continues actually her work by making sure that the films continued their circulation and still are circulated. And so by by actually the restoration of the films, ensuring that, like a better quality of the films, and making them available in new formats ensures the prolongation, no, of the life of these works. Yes, and I hope you enjoy the films, and thank you very much.